In a world where most people watch movies and then forget about them, these brave heroes join forces to watch them again and then talk about them. Join them in their epic journey as they go back in time, a decade and beyond, to revisit and break down films from a vast array of genres. Do these movies hold up over time? Are they classics? Find out on Retro Movie Roundtable. Starring your hosts, Brian Fry, Chad Robinson, Dustin Melbardis, Nathan Lutz, and Russell Guest. Coming now to headphones in your ears.
Welcome, all you lords, ladies, and knights of the Retro Movie Roundtable, where we watch movies, then talk about them. I'm your host, Chad Robinson, and joining me today is my good friend and co-host, Dustin Melbardis. See, I can pronounce your name.
Well done. I'm doing really good. I'm having a great day. It was rainy today down here in Texas, but I saw something incredible afterward, Chad. Guess what I saw?
What did you see, Dustin?
A bunch of geese
flying
in a half W. Oh, can you believe it?
This is I know the illusion, but you don't know me, and they are my mortal enemy.
Even when they're up in the sky flying in a V, the craziest shape geese can fly in?
Yes. More like when they're flying through my windshield at about 80 miles per hour.
Ooh.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes, during Labor Day, and I get stuck in middle of nowhere, West Virginia, which is a lot of West Virginia.
With an infant.
Good. Yes, with a 2-month-old infant. But aside from your beautiful scenery that I absolutely hate because I'm a crotchety old man, we have a great guest today. Joining us today, all the way from pretty much next bedroom over.
Well
that sounds like I'm in trouble. But Russell, her office is in the next bedroom. My wife, Sara Robinson. Welcome.
Hi.
Russell told me to get a guest, and I said I refuse to be anything but lazy about this. And so we have Sara joining us. But the nice thing about Sara is she likes genres that we typically do not cover. So today we will be touching on one of those genres, and I can't wait to talk to Dustin about it. So before that, we like to meet the guests, get to know them a little better. Sara's been on a couple of times due to various guilt trips, but good to have her back. It says from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Yes, of course. So Sara.
Yes.
What was the smoothest romantic move you have ever seen in a movie? The kind of thing that makes you go, aww.
Aww.
And just fills you with the warm and fuzzies.
Well, as you may know, Chad.
I know nothing.
Yeah, you live just one room over. I didn't know this already.
Yes, this makes us sound like we need counseling.
I am not one for one-liners. I don't like the pickup. I feel like it's an ego trip, and I like a slow burn. And
the best definition for me.
Anyway, so really the one-liners don't do it for me. So the first thing I thought of that fills me with the warm and fuzzies would be from Jerry Maguire. When Jerry Maguire says, I love you, you complete me, and Renee Zellweger's character says, shut up, just shut up. You had me at hello. That's just, you don't need to say anything when you know, and that makes me happy.
Very good. I'm feeling warmer and fuzzier already. Dustin, are you going to warm us up with a good one-liner?
Yeah, it's really romantic. I don't have it quite right, but it's something like, Anakin, I have the high ground. Don't try. No, I actually do have an answer to this. And I truly don't remember much about the context of it, but it's Ryan Gosling in The Notebook, right? And he says I think they're on the beach. I don't think they're lying down in the middle of the street, but it's when he says, if you're a bird, I'm a bird. And I remember thinking, my face scrunched up and how cute it was. I was like, okay, yeah, all right, you got me. Ryan. Speaking of geese, Ryan Gosling with the great line.
Very good. For me, I'm going to the all-time classic, Princess Bride. There's a shortage of perfect breasts in this world. It would be a pity to damage yours. Just smooth. And then
very good one.
Then she jumps on him, and he's like, gently. Right.
Gently.
Yes.
Slam.
So, Sarah, what was the last movie you saw?
The last movie I saw actually was the Cruella that was on Disney Plus.
Okay.
Somebody refused to watch it with me, so I had a lonely night and I watched it by myself.
Oh, I caught the last 20 minutes, which told me that validated my opinion.
I enjoyed it, but my other genre that I love is Disney and anything Disney and some animated, but mostly Disney. And so I just enjoyed having a new perspective.
Speaking of which, you snuck this one in on me. It is Disney produced. So the movie we were talking about later, I was thinking just, same with Quentin Tarantino. Hero produced or brought to you by Quentin Tarantino. It's like, daggone it. This one I'm thinking, there's no way Disney's involved in this. I'm safe. No, produced by Disney.
I've been so far off with I have not seen, it's been 6 or 7 years since I can think of a Disney movie that I was excited about. I will say I saw Coco a bunch, seen it a bunch. I think it's really good. But I missed Moana, I missed Frozen, all these newer ones and the Disney Plus subscription service. I don't subscribe to it. I only watch movies 10 years or older. Right?
There you go.
That's all I do.
We'll go with Tangled for 10 years and older. That's a big push for me. Yeah. Dustin.
Oh, that's the other one about the Dalmatians, all their tails getting stuck together, Tangled.
I see what you're doing there.
So I did not watch anything Disney. I have a tradition that whenever I lose power or lose internet, if I happen to have enough battery on my laptop, my tradition is I watch 4 Rooms. I have the movie 4 Rooms saved on a hard drive, and whenever it's late, all right, I don't have any, I can't charge my phone, I don't have any power, I'll rewatch 4 Rooms from I think 94.
Okay, I thought we were going to go with a thematic movie like Pitch Dark when there's no power.
Oh, that would I guess that would make more sense, but I'm not planning on losing power, so I don't make those downloads ahead of time. Maybe that's the next one that I should.
All right, we'll talk to Russell and make a top 10 list of thematic movies for when you lose power. We love lists. So for me, I wish it was something different because I feel like it's becoming trite at this point. But I watched a horror movie. It was 2003's The Locals. It's a low-budget New Zealand horror film. I am trying to get 20 movies from each year for the last 20 years. So 2003, I've got 2 or 3 left. That's rough after the top 5. The Locals... It's fun enough for low budget, and New Zealand doesn't come up with a bunch of movies on their own, so it's good for a New Zealand horror movie. We'll leave it at that. Dustin, enough about movies we've seen. How about movies that everybody should see and that we're talking about today? Can you tell us what movie we are covering today?
It is from 1999, Runaway Bride.
Very good. Runaway Bride stars Julia Roberts, Richard Gere. You may recognize that pairing from Pretty Woman. Joan Cusack, Hector Elizondo, Rita Wilson, and Paul Dooley. It's released, as Dustin said, in 1999. It grosses $152 million. That's good enough for 9th at the box office. It is placed right behind The Mummy, which is great, and places right ahead of The Blair Witch Project, which for all $30,000 or whatever it cost to make The Blair Witch, my goodness, to come up against Julia Roberts is pretty good. The number 1 movie that year, Russell made a note mocking me, but I'm going to do it anyways. I'm still going to groan. It's Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. So let's all take a moment and sigh for what could have been. Rest in peace, Darth Maul. Back to our movie, it has an IMDb rating of 5.6. Rotten Tomatoes, the critic tomato meter is not very nice to this movie. It is at a 46%. They are not feeling the love. The audience is a little bit more warm and fuzzy. They are at 53%. It wins no awards, which... at least it wasn't nominated for a Razzie Award, so we've got that. But we'll talk about expectations. Sarah, had you seen Runaway Bride before?
Yes. Yes, I had.
Yeah. So what were your expectations coming in this time? Did you like it originally?
I did like it originally, so I was hoping to like it again. I was also just hoping that Chad would enjoy it, because the last rom-com I had him watch on with this podcast, he was not a fan.
Sleepless in Seattle, check it out.
So I was hoping for better results this time.
Very good. Dustin, how about you? Had you seen Runaway Bride?
Ooh, I remember being 12 years old and this coming out and me being so excited to not see this movie. I did not see it. I knew about it. I knew about like this late 90s like rom-com era. And I was, I guess I'll say, at the time, completely uninterested. But, you know, you get in relationships as you get older, and sometimes you rewatch some of your partner's favorite movies, or sometimes you get what movies were important to them. And so while I had seen it in passing, I think this is the first time I've sat down with the intention of like, all right, I'm going to start this at the beginning and get through it. And I'm, once again, very grateful to be a part of this podcast, to give it a shot. But this was not the first time seeing it, but the first time really examining it.
Okay, and do you think it holds up for today's audiences?
No. but I can't, I don't want to like pick out the things that don't hold up, because I'm not exactly sure if I can. But I think there are some things that are classic about the movie, or like Garry Marshall's visions of like what he wants out of a movie, and like things that are classic that like will kind of linger on, and those things are those kind of ideas, maybe you call them tropes, they hold up. But as far as and hey, it's a love story, right? So love stories linger on and hold up. But as far as a yes or no question, I'm going to say no on this one. But that doesn't mean it was unenjoyable to watch.
Right, and we are coming off the Hero podcast where our fellow co-host Brian Fry was feeling the love. Check out our Hero podcast. He was demanding more romance, so we're here to give you what Brian Fry demands. So thank you, Sarah, for this recommendation. As she alluded to, I had not seen this movie. I have seen parts of it. This is one of those movies where the title pretty much tells you what the movie is. I appreciate that. There's no subtlety. There's no confusion as to how they arrived at this title. I had seen Pretty Woman, so I kind of knew what I was getting into as far as a rom-com with Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. Same director is Garry Marshall. So that was my frame of reference. There are a lot of fun callbacks to that movie. It feels very much within the Marshall family. I did enjoy it. So I have seen quite a few romantic comedies through my relationship with Sarah. And it's like a sine wave for me. There are hits and there are misses. But
I feel the same way about some of your movies.
Yes,
so.
there are more misses in the horror genre than there are.
I would so totally rather sit down and watch like a top 20 list of late 90s rom-coms than I would be looking. Well, let's look at 1989's 30th best horror film from Zimbabwe. Like, oh, okay, it's another night with Chad. Let's do it.
I don't understand his fascination. I really don't. I don't get it.
You don't want to get me started on Zimbabwe horror movies.
Especially at 88.
Yes. It really starts getting sketchy past number 2. So I do really look forward to discussing this movie, and we will do so, but first we have to take an advertisement break, but we will be right back after these messages.
Welcome to the Flashback Flicks Retro Movie Podcast. I'm Ricky.
I'm Grayson.
And every week we review a movie from the past and reflect on things we missed, things we loved, and things we want to see again.
Yeah, because we believe any movie worth watching is worth watching again.
So if you like films, friendship, and a lot of callbacks,
I mean, just so many callbacks,
then subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever RSS feeds go for like-minded movie-loving individuals. Like you.
What happens when two modern film fans go back and rewatch all the old classic films from yesteryear to see if they hold up? You get the Classic Film Jerks podcast. Find the Classic Film Jerks podcast on all the major platforms.
And we're back. So before Dustin spoils this movie, if you haven't checked out Runaway Bride from 1999, pause our podcast, go check it out. It's free on Pluto right now. Dustin, for those of us that need a refresher on Runaway Bride, break it down for us.
As you said, the title gives away quite a bit. That's what the movie's about. And I decided to write this as if I were pitching the movie. It's very casual. All right. So here we go. Ike is a columnist for USA Today. He's a procrastinator, bad about deadlines. So at a bar, he learns about a story of a woman who leaves guys at the altar and then writes this column using her real name, causing him to lose his job when this person, Maggie, notices a whole lot of other things that are wrong that were printed in USA Today and contacts the newspaper. His pal Fisher, who is married to his ex-wife, says, why don't you go to the town where she's at and harass her and learn all about her to figure out if it's true or not that she leaves everybody at the altar, which she does. He falls in love with her, she falls in love with him. They do one of those real quick classic swap-out weddings where you take one guy and you just swap one of the principal actors with this schmo named Bob. But get this, she runs away from this wedding too, and invokes the famous rule that if you jump into a FedEx truck and say go, that he has to drive you away. No questions asked. Hector Elizondo gets in a good joke about FedEx, and then Maggie breaks into Ike's apartment and proposes to him. And then they get married in their imagination, and Joan Cusack is real happy about it. And a whole lot of other people have happy endings in the end.
Very, very nice.
Sure thing, Gary Marshall. You think that's going to make us $150 million? Easy. No problem. Okay, well, let's make this movie.
Yeah. Julia Roberts, Richard Gere. We'll just do the reverse of Pretty Woman. So he's a male prostitute? Well, no.
Not that on the nose.
All right, so let's get into this, the screenplay and the plot discussion. Sarah, what did you like about this plot? Is it the warm and fuzzy, the everyone coming to the realization that they need each other?
Like I said, I like a slow burn.
All right, well this
although I didn't really feel like this was a slow burn. It was pretty quick.
This was like a 2-week stalking, but as Dustin
2 weeks being generous, yeah. This is a week maybe.
Yeah, no, I appreciate a rom-com for what it is, where you are introduced to the male and the female fairly early. You know right away that that's where it's going to go, and you find out what that twist of events is. And I like that it had this extra element of the Runaway Bride, just because, well, if she's so afraid of that commitment or whatever, is she really even going to end up with this guy that obviously you're gunning for? And so, yeah, that was the big thing.
It is the classic fish out of water
Yes.
format. It's the inverse Hallmark movie. Every Hallmark movie has the New York or California city girl who comes back to the rural hometown, discovers the lumberjack chopping wood or whatever, and then falls for him.
She didn't fall for any lumberjacks.
No,
There were no lumberjacks
there
in
was
the
a
story.
You know what? That should have been an extra character. I would have liked to see Julia Roberts chopping some wood, like flannel, brawny, all of that. Dustin, what do you think of our format here of we're going to have stereotypes, I think, or specific stereotypes of guys and her kind of malleable personality that makes her into these different fiancés?
That's a good question. Because what we're shown first is that instead of these stereotypes of guys, we're very early. We know that Ike is writing about the stereotypes of women.
Yes,
and that's like a talking point about his column, which is important to the movie for maybe 5 or 6 minutes. It is brought up later on, but we don't get into the female stereotypes as much. If you're going to ask about like the different types of guys that she like molds herself to, this is brought up by herself, maybe Joan Cusack's character, Peggy, I think. But the idea, I think she says, I have problems about this particular thing, about like changing herself to whatever the guy is. I know that with Ike, he asks that question about how do you like your eggs, and this is how we learn that she only likes her eggs the way that her partner, or her current partner, likes the eggs. There's no maliciousness here. These different guys, and if we're going to talk about the stereotype of guys, we have the hippie rocker, the one that was the wedding with Gil Chavez. That was the Gil Chavez wedding where there was the trampoline with the Grateful Dead logo.
Yep, and the rose tattoo, the back tattoo.
Right, truly unimportant. We have then the priest Brian Norris played by Donal Logue. And that is, I guess, just traditional. I mean, because he doesn't become a priest until later. And then we have, the classic stereotype. I mean, you can't do a late 90s rom-com without the entomologist character. Am I right?
Right?
You gotta have the entomologist. And of course, he's gotta wear, like, the tweed, like, jacket, and he wears a bow tie. I actually really like that actor. I can't remember what else he's in. But, like, those guys are the precursors to like the story. The story is that she leaves these guys at the altar. I think really it's the movie focuses more on her than these male stereotypes. In the end, we get I think what Sarah said is we get these the man and the woman in this love story. We get them, and we get to just sort of watch them as they eventually get together. Which does happen pretty early in the movie, like maybe an hour 10 in, when it's at the luau, or I guess it's at the wedding rehearsal that the switch is made. But yeah, I'd say there's only so much attention paid to the stereotypes of guys before we get into like what is it about these two star-crossed lovers that is going to have them end up together.
So I think I'm going to quote Russell's favorite movie, What About Bob?
It's a good one.
We have the jock who starts out kind of with his own personality as well. He's going to take her for this hiking trip in the Himalayas, I believe, for their honeymoon. And she's got all these extravagant weddings before. She's been on a horse. There's a highly religious ceremony, as you said, the Grateful Dead with a trampoline. And Bob is the jock. He is the sports coach. He's the hometown. If you're from a small town, you get it. He's the football coach. He is the god of that town. So everybody loves Bob, but he is very, very much the stereotypical jock. He's quizzing her on famous football players. He is going through very painful coaching metaphors at times, and he's very, very naive. Hey, random vicious reporter that my fiance absolutely doesn't like, would you like to come have dinner with us? How about come on our date? He's almost the catalyst for them getting together, which is a very odd role.
It's a well that they go back to, I think, more frequently than any of the other ones, because what we learn is all these other guys are good guys. Yeah, that's something that's spoon-fed to us, is that none of these guys had anything wrong with them. These weddings don't work out because of I'll let you guys know. Why don't they work out? Is it her fear of commitment?
Sarah, yes. Why do you think they don't work out?
I think it all boiled down to, I don't remember the quote exactly, but what she said at the end, she was basically like, she didn't give them the chance to really know who she was.
Yeah.
She knew who they were, at least pretty well, or could mimic that, and she could be who they thought they wanted, but they didn't know who she really was, and she would realize that at the end, right before the wedding. Although, if you knew that, why wait so long? I don't know. And I just felt with Bob, he was just trying too hard. Like, he just... he knew what he was in for, and he just kept trying, saying, nope, it's not gonna be me, it's not gonna be me. And I think at that point I'd just be running away because I'd be frustrated with him being so convinced it wasn't going to be him being left at the altar. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Some burns on Bob. All right. My immediate thought was whoever the custom jeweler is in this town is making a killing. She's getting all these different themed engagement rings. She has the high school sports type one that has the number 1 in diamonds. She's got the bug encrusted one.
Every woman's dream.
Yes. There were unique rings, the rose tattoo. I can't remember what the religious one. It might have been just a traditional.
It was gold band, very traditional, because that's the first one that she shows in her keepsake box of rings.
But this is a very small town. She's getting famous all over, and Ike just runs a hit piece on her, and she's shown to be a very capable woman. She is working in some sort of hardware store when we first meet her, and she's directing the male residents how to fix things and saying, oh no, this is your attic fan, we've got them in the back. She's very capable, and we see her later working in a salon, so she's got all these skill sets. But I think Sara nailed it as far as she doesn't want to really be herself. She slides into these other personalities and is just letting herself be malleable until it comes to the point of slipping a ring on and saying, I don't want to commit to this personality for the rest of my life. But she doesn't know who she is.
Do we know who she is? And I'm asking that critically, and it's not something that I was thinking about during the movie. Like I don't like this. I was just thinking like, what we know is that, and all anybody will talk about, which is a big part of the movie, is like she's the butt of a lot of jokes from family and friends. The thing we know about her is that she is capable in terms of fixing things and designing the things using like practical like pipes and fittings and that like that.
Yeah, that's
we
right.
We know that. But I'd say the thing what we're hammered with this a lot is that's kind of the thing she's known for. We do get a glimpse as to like some interpersonal problems with Peggy, which is that she's too flirty. Like what in total do we learn about her besides that she's pretty and has gotten people to propose to her?
Yeah, I think some of what we do know is related to that design portion. I think and I think that was part of the problem was the others didn't encourage her to pursue that dream because she had given up on that dream because of her father, because he was a drunkard and came home and needed to help him. So he very quickly said, why didn't you come out with a line and do something in New York or whatever and pursue this? And from what I could tell, that was something that was never really encouraged by the other men. And I think that was one of the things that drew her to him.
Yeah, Ike is definitely the first person, and this is very sad, that seems to have stopped and asked, what do you want? And this
what are your dreams?
This blows my mind as far as a wedding, because I've been through one, my friends have been through one. I can't think of a single guy that dictates to their bride-to-be, this is what you're going to wear, this is the type of ceremony, this is where we're going to get married, and this is where we're going to go on our honeymoon. I'll just tell you from personal experience, I had absolutely zero input on almost any of that.
I offer, thank you.
Yes, and I was very supportive of every decision you made. I briefly had her convinced to do Cowboys colors until I celebrated openly. But yeah, I think she's just lived a life of all these men dictating to her, be it her father. Her family's awful. I think we can all acknowledge that. They're all just running her down all the time, so she has no self-esteem. All these grooms, if there is a flaw, it's that they never stop to ask, what do you want?
I think that's really important because I didn't have that answer. I asked you guys, and you guys gave it, and I think that's exactly what's up. Now, Ike shows up and starts asking what she wants, but when he starts this process, it's not in it isn't in a loving way.
Right.
It's in the
antagonistic.
Yeah, it is totally antagonistic, but for the purpose of potentially like a GQ piece that his friend Fisher says you should try to figure this out. I mean, there are parts of this that the leaps made I'm not going to criticize here. The idea is if he figures out that it's true that this woman leaves people at the altar, that he's gonna write another story. And truly, it doesn't matter because what we're here to do is like see them fall in love. And that's great, but like as far as like writing a new story, you'd be like, hey, by the way, my name's Ike. You must have remembered me from USA Today. Everybody reads the exact same paper. You guys have been reading my columns for years. Just got fired. The reason I got fired, I went and tracked this woman down and found out that yep, she does leave men at the altar. So vindication. I think he says the word vindicated in the movie. I guess I can say this. Really happy that they end up together because if they don't. It's just at first two people that I'm seemingly not rooting for, and like this guy is this writer, the columnist Ike. Like I'm not really rooting for him to get vindication. It was not a personal story to him, and then for her now it is important for your partner to care about what you want, but all we have for a while is just that she gets proposed to and then leaves people at the altar. Not necessarily something I was willing to root for either. So the movie eventually got me to a place where I'm like, all right, well, I do like these two. And I like several of them. But I do end up wanting to root for some type of happy ending.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. And so I will cite Gil. Gil was the most offensive to me. He was the Grateful Dead. He was the Deadhead. Like... Mm-hmm. Random stranger comes in. Yeah, he's charismatic. Everyone says, "Oh, he sure makes friends quickly," as he's playing banjo with the chief of police and the mayor. And that was actually Richard Gere, by the way. He was improvising all of that. So props to Richard Gere. That's cool. But Gil, I have a bone to pick with because he's just like treasuring this topless photo of Maggie and hands it to a random reporter who then immediately uses it for blackmail. And I'm like, none of this situation is really cool. It was done tongue-in-cheek. But Gil, man, what are you doing?
Yeah, that might be one of the things that doesn't hold up. I guess I agree with you there, Chad. Is that like Gil isn't somebody that I particularly would be. I mean, I'm glad that like his auto shop is successful enough, but
yes,
but yeah, I would say of the remaining guys that she left at the altar. I mean, the priest ends up saying like, yeah, this is my life. I'm glad you left me. This led me to this life. Priest Norris or whatever, Father Norris, yes. I guess you could say. And then the entomologist is the catalyst for getting Ike to this town. Do we know where this town is, by the way? I don't remember.
Hale, Maryland.
It's in Maryland. Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah, so, and Dustin, you talked about it a little bit, but Sarah will ask you about her friends, because they start off kind of supportive. They say, oh, well, this guy's actually attractive, and Maggie's like, really? The vicious reporter is attractive? But then they kind of help her out in the hair salon with the Joker hairstyle.
Just like what my impressions were of
what are
these
your
friends?
impressions of her friends? Because I feel like it stopped being consistent and supportive right about as soon as he left as a clown.
I don't know. I think they were always on her side. It just maybe not what she thought her side was, and maybe she didn't know what her side was right away. Or she wanted to be very vindictive on her own side for a long time and wasn't really seeing anything else past that. And the Joker hairstyle was quite a funny move, and you have to be a pretty good friend to be willing to do that with your to help out, but
to maim a New York City reporter. Yes.
I kind of liked it. I thought it was.
It's a win. Yeah, it's
lovely.
a win for It's a win for our ladies, for our Maryland ladies. Is like, yeah, you're gonna come to our town. Here's your new hair,
right?
And then, you will need a bucket hat for this, and you'll take it off a kid, $10 for a hat, whatever. But that's kind of a win. Like, yeah, we showed him, didn't we? And 40 minutes later, actually, no, I want to marry you. Not Christopher Meloni, who's just an utter dreamboat. No, I want to marry you.
Everybody loves Elliot Stabler.
Everybody loves Elliot Stabler, yeah.
Yes, he's high in Sarah's list. Is he higher up than Richard Gere?
Maybe,
yeah.
And he's funny too. I think aside from the SVU, I know he was in Oz, not for a comedic role, but in the Wet Hot American Summer, yes. he's so funny.
Yeah. I guess where I'm going with her friends is we had this kind of strange angle right in the middle. And Dustin, I think you were the one that alluded to it, of Peggy and Julia Roberts' character being very familiar and very chummy, and she used to date Peggy's husband. And they're celebrating on the baseball field, and there's a weird turn where Peggy's just essentially saying, hey, you're too flirtatious with my husband, back off. And it's like an attempt at self-actualization, but then it really goes nowhere. It just seems like we needed a little bit of melodrama from the ladies. And then later on, her one friend goes chasing after Christopher Meloni once the rehearsal's over and the wedding's called off. She's like, hey, here's my number.
Yeah, you're correct that it goes nowhere. It should be more than melodrama. What I think is the attempt here is to add more depth, which is that like even this, because what we're shown by Mr. Marshall is that like this guy, aside from the things that are like wrong with him, this guy is attractive, and this girl Maggie is also so attractive that like everybody's interested in her. So like we're even though they're famous, beautiful actors, Garry Marshall makes us know that, like, no, these people, if you see them, you would be taken aback. Because everybody comments on how handsome he is. And he's got a tight butt, says Grandma or whatever.
Yes, the horny grandmother was a great character.
Right. I actually have more to say on her later in our superlative. But... And then we have to know that, like, okay, well, she is also extremely attractive, so much so that this high school boy who's on the football team says, I'm going to marry... Hi, you're my coach's fiance, and I'm going to marry you. Don't marry my coach, whatever that is. So like, we get that they are, like, on face value, attractive and desirable. And then there's an attempt to add depth with this, like, I'm also caring enough to where if I see that there's a pain, a problem with this personal relationship I have with you, Peggy, my friend, then I'm going to attempt to address it. But it does fall short and essentially just takes up a little bit of time. Peggy's never not on her side.
Right.
Essentially, I believe that that the husband is only in the movie so that Garry Marshall can make the joke "wake up with phlegm."
Yes.
It's a lot of these side characters and side little subplots kind of just exist for the joke, and so like while they were seeking depth there, it just kind of, you do want to, and I did ask myself while watching it this last time, I said, when's going to be that point where, like, I start rooting for anybody here? When am I going to start saying, like, all right, I really want what's best for her?
Yeah, I kind of felt like the scene where he was kind of turning Peggy and making her remember that her friend was a flirt and that sort of thing. I feel like that was maybe not there quite as much for the depth. Maybe it was. Maybe it's me just wanting a rom-com being a rom-com. But I almost felt like it was just Ike trying to show that Ike was trying to get different sides of the story and finding out what they were and stirring the pot a little bit. Because at that point, you weren't quite sure if Ike and Maggie even liked each other. So was he stirring the pot to make Maggie angry? Was he trying to get more information? And that just led to that situation, stirring the pot. Or maybe it was depth and a failed attempt, but I just felt like it was showing Ike getting into the story and digging deeper, and that led to that interaction as a result.
And it's an indicator of him caring more.
Right.
Is that he's willing to ask that question.
But he certainly is meddling. And
oh, yeah.
It was the weirdest threat in the opening meeting when he goes to Hale. He's like, oh, you're going to run, and I'm not leaving here until you do. I'm like, I think in some twisted way that's supposed to be somewhat romantic, but it's a crazy threat. And Dustin, yeah, you're kind of hitting how I feel. And so, Sarah, I guess I'll ask you for a different perspective. Where did you start rooting for these characters? Because they make it difficult for us. Ike is calling her a man-eater. He's making up stories about random women in small towns that he doesn't even know. We have Maggie, who's just leaving people constantly. Maybe for you it's to just find that true love, and you're rooting for her right away.
I am rooting for it fairly early, but I think the turning point for me, and I think it was after that interaction with Peggy, was when Maggie was bringing her dad out of the bar, and Ike just happened to be there, which was... I felt like that was weird because it seemed like that bar was not in town.
Oh, he was stalking
her.
Yes, he was 100% stalking
But anyway, she's putting her dad in the pickup and obviously struggling with that relationship and everything. And he says, you know what, just leave him there. We're going to go for a ride. And I think that was the turning point for me, in which I thought, okay, there's a connection there more than just that. Because I think that was more when they started talking about their dreams to each other a little bit more.
And snakes.
Okay. Snakes too. Snakes are scary. But in the car ride, the snakes were after the car ride.
She goes, okay, Chad, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, you nailed where I started rooting for them. I think they used this tragic story of Maggie. Up until then, it had all been about her and kind of self-absorbed and just giving us a lot of things that may not make her that likable. But then they introduce this issue with the dad and show her caring and how disruptive it is to her life, that she's having to watch her dad. And at one point she breaks down and says, I don't like having a dad who's drunk all the time, when he's just been running her down and bad-mouthing her. And she's given up her free time to take care of this man. And, she's been taking care of other people and projecting herself in ways that aren't healthy. So yeah, for me, it's about the same place. And they do have the fun scene when the car breaks down and they're talking about, hey, in New York, I hail a cab. And she's like, well, in Maryland, we walk through the field. Watch out for snakes. And he does this very, very awkward run, which is a great scene, to avoid the snakes. She's like, what are you doing? Like a snake isn't fast enough to catch Richard Gere.
High knees.
Yes.
You gotta keep your knees high. That's something that Bob could have told him.
Yes. So Dustin, did the dad storyline, you talked about having difficulty rooting for these characters. Was that the turning point for you, or was it earlier? Were you feeling the warm and fuzzies earlier?
I have something to say about that, which is I almost think that was not poorly done, but it is necessary to have her mother's passing and dad's alcoholism be the catalyst for why she's not able to move forward in her life. That's a big character moment for her, and Ike realizes it or discovers it. I think that, and as someone who has spent most of my 20s was drinking at a professional level, and I don't drink anymore. And I think that it's alcoholism or drinking too much, whatever words you want to use, is too complex of an issue to have it be like a plot device without it being a major one. So unfortunately for me, when I saw that as like I'm not, and I didn't think to myself like, oh, this is a level of depth I don't think the movie is reaching. I just thought to myself like, this is just a way to get them together alone. She decides to go on this car ride with this guy, must be interested, or just flippant enough about her own relationship to kind of see where this goes. Like, let's just see where this goes. Do we find out after the car breaks down on that long trip what happens to passed out dad in the truck?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, we don't, because in the movie it's sort of like let's put him away. We're gonna put him away over here, and we're gonna focus on our romantic leads. And in the morning he's sitting there juggling oranges when he makes that joke, and she says, I don't want you to say that to me anymore. You know, he should not have his job anymore. He's sleeping till noon. Like if it's the level, if it's the level that we're made to believe by watching that he's in this bad shape, then he should be portrayed worse. That's hard to say, but like that, it's worse than that, and it should be an issue that's maybe spoken about between grandmother and Maggie. You know, that should be a bigger part of the conversation, but we just don't have time. The movie's an hour 15 minutes already. We just don't have time to get into that level of depth with these characters. For me, even though I didn't love it, and this was actually like, you can tell a movie, I think for myself, you can tell that like you're invested in the movie when a cringy moment comes around and you start to feel uncomfortable. And rom-coms do a good job at this, and this movie did a good job at this. Is at the luau, at the luau when he kind of stands up for her, because the thing the whole town does is make fun of her about leaving men at the altar. And I think he says his toast, may you find yourselves the bullseye of an easy target. May you be publicly flogged for all of your bad choices. May your noses be rubbed in all of your mistakes. Like, when he stands up for her in that way before the scene that happens outside, I think that was where I started saying, like, all right, he's now willing to go this far to chastise the rest of the town, her family. He's putting himself out there. Maybe we didn't see him put himself quite out there for this reason yet in the movie. I think that's when I started saying, like, all right, let's see these two together. And I'll end this long string of me talking with, there was a part of me when I hadn't seen this movie before, like when I hadn't seen it before, that I was like, what if this is just a really good, like, friend relationship that happens, and through, like, discussion and through self-finding with this New York guy, maybe actually the Bob relationship, like, is good. Like, maybe she actually, like, sticks with it, and they get married, and 10 years down the line they revisit and, like, yeah, things are going well. Thank you for helping me find myself. Bob's great. We climbed a bunch of mountains. Like, there was a little bit, because I'm not the biggest Richard Gere stan, and I was actually wishing he was a little slimier in this movie. But, like, I thought to myself, what's the thing that didn't happen? What if she ends up happy with someone else? I was mainly rooting for Maggie, not necessarily Maggie and Ike as the couple.
I think it's important that Ike is the first character that we see Maggie actually change, or first male that she's affected and changed. He goes back to his ex-wife, who he used to work for. Horrible idea, by the way. And you see him, like, cuddling up to her and kissing her.
That was weird.
That was a weird scene, by the way. And he's basically apologizing. And we find out it's been like 10, 12, maybe 14 years. They've been divorced for a while. And then Fisher, I did not really understand Fisher was her husband. He comes in and he's totally cool with ex-husband, like sidling up to his wife on the piano and kind of kissing her neck. He's like, here's a scotch, good buddy. You know, that was weird character development, but we do see him essentially saying, I understand now, and I blew it, and you weren't my world, and I'm sorry. They did it in not a great way, in a very, sitcom-y, almost 70s type way, where maybe you'd be okay with some dude just sitting next to your wife, not being threatened at all. I don't know. Richard Gere comes into my house and sidles up to Sarah on the piano. I'm kicking the dude out. I don't care what he has to say, but yeah, it was character development. So we see Maggie making him a better man, to quote Jack Nicholson.
Very quickly. Development, making
Yes.
him a better man.
Well, we don't have a lot of time in this movie, as we've pointed out. It's an hour and 50 minutes long, so development happens quickly.
Apparently.
So, a couple things I wanted to hit as far as fun casting decisions. I'm intrigued by some of the casting for Maggie. Angelica Huston, famous for Morticia Addams and the title role in Witches, Gina Davis, Demi Moore, Sandra Bullock, and I almost feel like some of this is going in descending order of people I would prefer. Ellen DeGeneres for Maggie. That would have been a very, very interesting choice. But any of those names strike you as what you want to see here?
Gina Davis.
Okay.
All the way. I want to see that movie. You know what else I could think? Andy McDowell I would like.
Okay.
And I'm not jumping ahead to our recast. I'm just saying, like, you're making me think of this time period. Let's be fair though. The draw is Julia Roberts being Julia Roberts, which she is in like every movie. She's kind of her playing her with a different name. Would you disagree?
No, but she just has such a sweet, affable personality.
She's great.
You know,
she's great.
She got the moniker America's Sweetheart for a good reason. Sarah, any of these names stick out to you? Anything you're intrigued, or just say, "Oh no, let's not do that"?
Well, Ellen DeGeneres would be an oh no. I don't see her as being that endearing. I don't know. I like Ellen. That's not. I just don't see her as being like the small town girl sweetheart.
You
role.
see her as a blue tang of just keep swimming.
Yeah. Yes, as a little fish.
Yes.
Looking at that list, I sometimes get Sandra Bullock and and Julia Roberts confused.
Oh,
so
no.
I could see that.
Oh no. I can see Sandra Bullock if she had a blindfold on do the Bird Box.
She can't.
I would be very intrigued by Angelica Huston. I think that's getting Morticia Addams as this big draw of this small town beauty. I don't know that she fits country beautiful, but I'm intrigued, and just for the train wreck, I want to see that happen. But I think you're right, Dustin. The obvious one is Gina Davis.
Angelica Houston fits in this movie if it was made 12 years later, right around the time that Gary Marshall's making all of those holiday-themed movies, like what New Year's Eve, and what Valentine's Day,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Mother's Day, Arbor Day. Does he make that movie?
It's in the works right now. It's a celebration.
Essentially, yeah. Where the sheer size of the cast is part of the draw, but I don't see her as being the small town girl in this instance. But
it gets more fun for me for Ike, because at the top of the list of people we considered is Christopher Walken, which I want to see every single time for just reasons other than making a good movie. We have Harrison Ford. This makes sense. I've seen it. We covered Working Girl earlier this year. We have Michael Douglas as well. You know, he can turn on the sleaze and he can turn on the charm. And we have Ben Affleck for Bob, which is an interesting choice. I think I could see him being a jock type character, but is there anyone, for chaos reasons or otherwise, that you would be intrigued in seeing replace Richard Gere? Maybe you don't want to see Pretty Woman Part 2.
I was just going to say, I could see Michael Douglas doing it. I'm a big fan of American President.
Okay.
And so I can see him in that kind of role. So seeing those names, that's who I would think of for that reason. And no, Bob cannot be replaced.
What if he's replaced with Matt Damon?
I don't know.
She's intrigued now. She's like, it may not improve the movie, but it'd improve it for me.
Yeah, what if he's replaced with Bill Murray, like the actual What About Bob?
Yes.
What if we just switch Bobs?
I'm down for it.
No,
Sarah's shaking her head violently.
Oh no on that. He's so likable, Chris Meloni in this movie. But no, for me, it's Willem Dafoe. Clearly, Willem Dafoe plays the sleazy columnist who I don't think you could get him to be lovable.
Yikes!
I'm only saying that because we watched him get kicked out of Mexico, which is a phrase I'll never ever forget.
In a wheelchair
previous
fight,
podcast.
yes. Check out Born on the 4th of July. Yes. You know, I'm something of a mechanic myself.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as for Ike, in the end, it's not that I found myself like rooting for them both, but it was Julia first, then Richard Gere second. But I think the thing I like most about him is his apartment.
Okay. You like the New York apartment?
Love it. I love that.
Yes.
It makes me think of how expensive it would be. Unfortunately,
I was distracted by the kitty cat. the cat resembled my cat who passed away this January, and it's like, oh, it's a Norwegian forest cat. Trivia I wouldn't have known previously, and I was just fixated. He probably said lines. I don't know what they were because
The cat?
Oh well, no, the cat spoke to me, but I'm sure Richard Gere had lines. They were gone while I was distracted by the beautiful Norwegian forest cat, who likely rest in peace because it was 1999.
Yes.
I've just depressed the podcast, so I'm going to move on.
it's fun. Circle of life.
Yes. A kid got dragged down the aisle during a wedding, and that makes me happy. Let's talk about things that make me happy. Children getting injured. I know Dustin from his history in the podcast. Small children getting injured. This is way up on your podcast.
Forget them kids.
Yes. Yes. But I do want to spend a little time talking about Garry Marshall. He is our director here. He is of the famous Marshall family. He is Penny Marshall's brother. So he directed this movie. He's directed movies that somewhere in here you've seen a Garry Marshall movie, if I had to take a bet. Most famously, Goldie Hawn's Overboard. He does Pretty Woman, which I mentioned. We have Dear God highlighted. I don't know what that movie is. The Princess Diaries, though, Raising Helen, Georgia Rule, and then you hit on his latest movies, the hodgepodge casts that get progressively worse. Valentine's Day, then New Year's Eve. I had no idea Mother's Day was a thing, but I
think I had you watch the other two, though.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. I have seen quite a bit. He's done Raising Helen again, if I didn't say that. And he gets a lot of director of television. We talked about kind of the tropey things. Well, he's cutting his teeth on Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, starring Penny Marshall. And Mork and Mindy does a couple other Laverne and Shirley episodes. Herndon, Let's Get Mom. So it does have some of those sitcom tropes. But what do you think of Garry Marshall's style here?
I think it is. He's got a way that comedy's delivered to the audience, and it makes me think that the jumps that we make in plot they have to be forgiven, because all we're doing is getting to the next joke delivery, and so some of the scenarios aren't as well developed or as comedic today as they were then, but I think that he's still like you could guess that's the joke that he had in his head when he was pitching the movie, and like oh, we need to get to the part where she's walking down the aisle and seeing Richard Gere, and she stops and the whole audience gasps, or sorry, all the guests at the wedding from the New York side and the Maryland side, the gasp. To him, like he's rolling on the floor, thinking, "Now that's funny. That is what audience want." And he's right, because it's commercially successful, and he's in that genre. You know, the rom-com I brought up is definitely much more rom than com, and I think there's it's not formulaic, but it's like this is a Garry Marshall movie, and you could pick it out of a lineup almost. And that's comforting in a way when you know that it's like, okay, yeah, this is there's gonna be this type of gag. It's gonna be unapologetic with the type of jokes that it makes. So, like I feel like it has an imprint on it.
Yeah, I'm not one to notice directors. I'm really not. But looking at this list, I'm like, oh, I've seen that, and I've seen that, and I've seen that, and these were all things that I wanted to see. And I remember watching Princess Diaries, thinking, oh, I'm too old for this, but I'm going to watch it anyway because I always just felt like it was more like a teen drama, or not drama, but comedy. But now thinking back, I remember watching it thinking, this is a good movie. I enjoyed it. I was surprised, but I enjoyed it. And now seeing that on that list, I'm thinking, okay, that makes perfect sense. Just the way that it, like you were saying, like the way he does gags and the way that he looks for stories to end up, start and end up and how to get from one place to another. I can see it. I can see it being with those, but I had no idea that they were the same person.
Yeah. Did some of this at least feel familiar to you? I know you've seen Pretty Woman quite a bit, so some of these scenes were probably...
Yes, I've seen Pretty Woman, Runaway Bride, Princess Diaries, Georgia Rule, Valentine's Day, New Year's Eve, and all of them follow a very similar formula, but in completely different storylines, but you can still tell where it's going and what those gags, not what the gags are going to be, but how they're going to be delivered.
Yeah, he likes to reference his own movies or other movies that actors or actresses have been in, as well as he likes to reference things that Penny has been involved in. So we see callbacks to Pretty Woman. Mm-hmm. We see the buying the clothes scene where Vivian in Pretty Woman was rejected. Hey, you don't have this money. You can't buy these clothes. Maggie, same situation. Yeah. You can't buy this dress. It was straight out of Pretty Woman. We get the crab mallet that gets sent flying in this scene. He loves shellfish gags because Pretty Woman, we have the escargot, which is actually caught by Garry Marshall. And if you pay attention to Garry Marshall movies, you'll start seeing extras that keep popping up. He puts his kids and grandkids in the background. So they show up in this movie quite a bit. But you'll see Garry Marshall. He winds up putting himself in the movies as well. I think he was the second baseman or something. He's out in the baseball side. But yeah, Dustin, you're right. His style, I think, is very much influenced from the Mork and Mindy, Laverne and Shirley, Happy Days. It's sitcom-esque, which doesn't allow for too much nuance in the characters. A lot of their personalities are there to set up jokes. So Bob is to set up the sports joke or the sports pun. The entomologist is there because someone took a bet and said, can we make a guy whose profession is studying bugs funny? Like, this is the bet. So
Yeah. If there's a quip to be made, it might be funnier if another director was doing it to, like, let the silence be the joke. But that's never going to happen with Garry Marshall. He's going to have Hector Elizondo in the movie make the joke. Or he's going to have someone make the joke, even if you were ahead of it. He knows that part of his job is to deliver in that sense, and so he does. And there's nothing wrong with it. Just like there's nothing wrong with the difference between today's comedies that are all over Netflix that are very good compared to, if you were watching Nick at Night or TV Land. Like, that's, seeing Lucy stuff all those chocolates into her mouth is a different style of funny than Big Mouth, or what's the big the Chai Party Ant just came out and everyone is tweeting about it. We don't have. I don't. What's this movie rated?
PG. It is very soft PG.
Yeah,
exactly. So like it's its own style, and it's definitely different than Four Rooms, but like it doesn't mean that it's less enjoyable.
Right, and we'll talk about the atmosphere of this movie a little bit It's set in the late 90s. It's present day, 1999, 98. Location, like we said, is Hale, Maryland, which is actually Berlin, Maryland. There are 3,000 actual residents of the town of Berlin. So what do you think? Is this similar to your Hallmark Christmas movies of we have the New York City come to this small town? Is this comfort food for you, Sarah?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yes, oftentimes. I don't know. I was just thinking about the size of Berlin compared to the size of, like, where my family's originally from, and
they lacked barbershop quartets.
Yes, they did. There were no barbershop quartets.
True indication that you have arrived in the sticks.
Yeah, that it was very Hallmark-esque. It did feel that way. And I even made that comment to you afterwards that I understand it may have had some Hallmark moments, and that was definitely one of them, the big city person coming to the small town. Yes,
and learning a lesson. Small town moral lessons from the upright, selfish, big city person.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is a really good part of a plot line for the TV sitcom 30 Rock, where they travel to a small town in Georgia, and the two main characters in the show, but also in that episode, are both like TV. One's a TV executive, one's a TV producer / writer, and in the episode, they have one of the locals say like, "Hey, quit trying to make us seem like we're like wholesome America. Quit trying to paint us this way. We do things our own way. You don't know it." And we don't exist to balance out like your city America to rural America. Leave us alone. And what I'm thinking of like with this Hallmark-esque is what you say, and it made me think of. I think it's kind of a classically well known that like you can't get a lot of the classic movies on these subscription services like around Christmas time. And I remember watching something called Christmas in the Smokies.
Oh,
sorry,
no.
I shouldn't say it like that. I remember turning on the movie Christmas in the Smokies and then turning it off about 5 minutes later because you couldn't get like Rudolph on Netflix, or you couldn't get like the classics. So I turned this movie on and it was exactly as you described. It was not like, it wasn't lumberjack. It was like young lady moves back to rural town to work on her uncle's failing blackberry farm or something like that.
Sounds
like it's exactly like the formula you laid out. But I mean. And the thing that made me mad about that is that clearly this was made in California because the mountains were the Rocky Mountains, not the Smoky Mountains. I won't go on further about it. It was just very obviously not Smokies.
Come on, made-for-TV Hallmark movie.
I cannot believe they got that wrong. But like the idea of Richard Gere, Ike getting some small-town justice, once again, just kind of brings a smile to your face.
All right, so it's working for you. But in reality, Richard Gere hated this place. So he learned no lessons. He called it the Sticks, and he refused to stay in Berlin, Maryland. He stayed 15 miles away in Ocean Pines. So he was not having any of it. He's learning no life lessons. Julia Roberts is there hobnobbing with the 3,000 residents who are super excited. This kind of put Hale, Maryland, or Berlin, Maryland on the map. Like I said, it's 3,000 people. It pumped $1 million into their economy.
Wow.
And it said it doubled its tourism. I don't know what that number looks like. Did it go from 6 to 12? Or like the mayor has said, hey, this is a big thing. Like, people will come to Berlin, Maryland, and do the little Runaway Bride tour. So that's good for them.
Do they have an official tour?
Yes. We're not going.
We're not far from Maryland.
Yeah, I saw that little whatever.
Berlin, Maryland only had 3 people in their barbershop trio, and then they were able to hire a 4th.
Yeah. So, I mean, great for small towns. Coming from West Virginia, we're big when someone actually films something in West Virginia. We get excited about it. It does pump money into the local economy. We get excited.
They put the wrong Marriott in.
Yeah, we're still mad about Mothman prophecies. We will complain every time that comes up. That is not our Marriott. Our Marriott is nice. We do not have a shack Marriott. How dare you? Also, Richard Gere movie.
Sorry.
He probably didn't stay in West Virginia either. We're just going to turn on Richard Gere right here.
Oh, I just want to say, dear listeners, is that he'll say like, yeah, we'll come to arms whenever that's brought up. You brought it up.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Sarah brought it up, but yeah, things filmed and possibly not filmed in location, but we'll talk about wardrobes a little bit. I thought this was cool. All the dresses were custom made by Albert Wolski, except they call it the dress, the final dress. It was just an off the rack. It was actually the last gown. I'm going to mispronounce this, but Amsale Abera, sure. Wolski thought it was just perfectly made for Julia. So it's kind of cool that they went through costume design for all these others that had to fit different themes. But when they needed the dress, he just managed to luckily find one in the store. But any wardrobe or costume comments?
I feel like that hearing that story though, it makes sense that would not be so just for me. Like that final wedding was it was just the piece. It was not anything extravagant. It was not anything grand. And so that the fact that it was probably their easiest find makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Not that anybody would have known it just watching it, but it just makes sense that would be the case.
Are we talking about the dress where they're getting married in the field, like when they're actually getting married? Are we talking about the bell dress that was part of the scene that, like, I want to buy that dress? Well, that's $1,000. But which dress are we talking about?
It's the final one where they actually do get married.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful dress. As far as the wardrobe, I mean, we have long skirts. We have suits that, like, I still prefer to wear my suits kind of like that era. My suits are not tapered at the ankle like they are so commonly now for men. They aren't so incredibly like tight and fitted. There were things about this movie that, like, and it was only 2 months ago that we did To Die For, and it was like the exact same time period, I would say. And like that, this, like the same patterns. I will say, even like the hairstyle, like Joan Cusack's hair made me angry. I have to look at it. But like when you see all the people in the stands for the softball game, you're like, oh yeah, I remember when we all used to look like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Or like the baseball caps used to fit like that. They used to fit on your head like that, without like the snapbacks or the flat brims. Like, oh, that's just what people wore. You know, there are some lowlights, which I made sure to record, but yeah, this is just kind of how people dressed, and because it's not period, because they're not like taking a look back 10 years or 20 years, that it was like in the moment. Like it's all accurate and good. Like it's exactly what that seemed like at the time.
Yeah, I remember thinking about Peggy's hair, kind of the same thing, except I remember thinking, oh yeah, people used to do that with those clips all over the
Butterfly
place.
clips. Yeah. Hers are like giant too.
Yeah.
Like they're not like little girls' clips. They were just like giant clips.
Yeah. I do remember that time.
And this movie features a lot of music. We get a lot of different songs. Sarah's already dancing, so we will toss this up to Sarah. What do you think of the soundtrack of Runaway Bride? Does it speak to your heart? Does it make the movie better?
A lot of the songs are songs that do speak to my heart just because of the era. I mean, that was the time we were in high school. So like Ready to Run. I remember playing that on the radio, blaring it up in my car, and just windows rolled down screaming. So
yes.
Like that just makes me feel warm and fuzzy. I love it, and it fits. And there were a bunch of others, but that's the one that just stands out to me as Ready to Run. I would serenade you right now, but nobody wants to hear that.
Yes. By formerly the Dixie Chicks, but now just the Chicks.
Just the Chicks.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, they were the Dixie Chicks back then.
Yes.
Yes. Dustin?
Movie starts with the U2 song, which is one of my favorite songs, but I didn't it doesn't. It obviously fits the theme, right? Still haven't found what I'm looking for. Yes. Clearly, that's the only song I think there that maybe doesn't fit in the rest of the time. Like the those types of, Martina McBride, Dixie Chicks. I'm thinking like it would not have surprised me to hear like a little Shania Twain in there. Man, I Feel Like a Woman. It was all very much like that. The Sean Colvin song in that one, Never Saw Blue like that. Mm-hmm. For me, like Sean Colvin, I like the Sonny Came Home. I like the little kind of, like, this song has like some happy music, and it did feel like it fit. There were some music editing parts where it was just like, all right, we stopped the music. It's almost like somebody like stopped playing it on their phone and like, all right, move to the next song. But aside from that, like the music all felt pure, and there weren't any like bad covers. I don't think there were any bad choices. Also, I love the movie. I love the song "Maneater" by Hall & Oates.
See, this is a frequent complaint of mine as far as romantic comedies. It's almost a trope where they use music how I would use it in high school when I thought I was being very clever and putting the movie together. Be like, this song says similar things to what I want to convey. We should play it here. And it's just so on the nose. We start with Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. She's riding the horse away from a wedding. We play Ready to Run as she's getting ready during a montage of running away from a wedding. And then right after Ike's column calling her a man-eater, which is obvious why they did it, because then they, in case you didn't get the joke, they play Hall & Oates man-eater. It's like, good grief. Gary Marshall, we get it. You are taking this soundtrack and beating the horse with it. And the horse has been dead for a while. I get it. So we had a very similar, I had a very similar complaint with How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. They love doing this in some of these romantic comedies. We are really going to pick a fitting song rather than just, I don't know, here's a fun song.
I think it fits to their audience, though.
Because
I loved it.
Totally.
I loved it. And I know I'm target audience, so...
that is fine. It works, and I'm glad you're here to give a different, less crotchety opinion. Because here I am just saying...
That's the way we always work.
Yes. You're here to give the bright, sunny optimism, and I am here to just needlessly hate on fun.
Yeah, there are some movies where it's just like exactly as you described. Like, all right, we're gonna put these contemporary songs just kind of back to back, and it's going to be just right on the nose. Another soundtrack like that makes me think of. I think you said How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, but I'm thinking of Coyote Ugly.
Yes,
like all those songs just like boom splat right in there. But yeah, it's not inaccurate, but like that's kind of what you can expect. Is not like a full score, and let's be honest, using a wedding like as a big part of a movie, right? Like there's going to be like wedding music. There's going to be certain scenes that are laid out, right? If you're going to, I also watched Father the Bride this week.
Maybe.
And I almost watched My Best Friend's Wedding as well. But like when you have a bridal piece or like a wedding as part of the movie, it's automatically going to be longer because you have to cover the planning period, you have to cover the rehearsal dinner, you have to cover the day of stuff, and there was so much packed into this. I almost think and we only got snippets of the earlier weddings, but there's all, you have to fit all the wedding music in as well. But as far as the contemporary stuff they jammed in, like, who's gonna blame them? It's like I said, we gotta forgive them for this stuff.
You have to forgive them. I will continue being bitter, but I'm gonna move on to things I'm not bitter about. And is everybody ready to give out some superlatives?
Oh yeah,
yes,
sure.
There's no fitting song that I can sing for movie superlatives, or I'd insert it here. But we will start with our MVP, director, actor, supporting actor. Sarah, who is your MVP?
How can you go with anybody but Julia Roberts? She's just she's what makes that movie. She's the driver of the story.
She's the saccharine sweetness to our rom-com. Dustin, how can anyone go with anyone else but Julia Roberts? Are you going to tell us?
She's great, and I love her. But the MVP here is Garry Marshall, because he said, "How do I pitch this movie and make 5,000% or 500%?" Like he just made so much money from this, from being not a great movie. that's a big MVP. Like sometimes the MVP of the finals is on the losing team, right? Because they did all the right stuff. And in this case, I would say, hey, the critics meter and the tomato meter, we're hovering around 50% here. I can see why. But Garry Marshall made a lot of money, and that studio's happy with it. So that's why he's getting my MVP.
Right.
Kind of a roundabout way of giving that award.
I'm going to side with my wife, not just to side with my wife, but yeah, Julia Roberts. The character should be frustrating. I feel like had you cast someone like Renee Zellweger or maybe Courtney Cox, someone that can easily irritate me, it wouldn't go down. But Julia has this smile and charm that kind of makes you forget that you just watched a terrible scene with her just being an insane person, and you root for her again. So she kept me rooting for her despite constantly leaving people and having no personality in the beginning. So Julia Roberts. Best Supporting Actor, Sarah.
I have no reason for this except for who he is, and that's Christopher Meloni.
Oh, you have reasons. You've seen that man shirtless in a shower scene. That's your reason. I know that.
Sorry, I just really like him.
Yes, Bob.
It doesn't matter what he's in.
Yes.
He's a real hunk.
He's a fun character.
He's a big hunk, man.
He's a fun character. Dustin, have you seen Christopher Meloni shirtless?
So many times, not on film. But essentially, my best supporting actor is whoever plays Italix the cat.
Yes.
That's my absolute number one. But close second is the weird Fisher character played by Hector Elizondo. Mm-hmm. I know that he only exists to deliver punchlines, and that's all he does, and he's in it for 4 minutes, and that's all you need him to do. That's all he's there for. And I thought he did a good job. Excellent.
He did a very good job of being okay with his wife being hit on.
Super weird. Yep.
I did not copy Sarah's answers, but yeah, I'm going with Christopher Meloni on my end. I primarily know him as Stabler, but yeah, I have seen Wet Hot American Summer, and he's a great, clueless jock here. He's actually menacing at one point in the movie. He does a lot of fun range. He actually has great comedic chops when he's not just staring and sternly reprimanding someone in a Law and Order show. Hidden gem, underappreciated minor cast or element. Sarah?
So I'm kind of going with what Dustin was saying earlier. The actor that plays Fisher, Hector Elizondo.
Yes.
I thought he was great, even though he barely was in it. And we're harkening back to the scene where he sees Richard Gere kiss his his wife, and he just is okay with it. And I love that moment, even though it was really awkward and really weird.
I'm now concerned, but I'm going to move on.
Oh, yeah. Maybe you should be a little bit.
Dustin?
I have no ex-husband.
My hidden gem are specifically hidden gem style jokes that Garry Marshall peppers in through this movie. That's the reason they exist. Like, it's the reason the whole movie exists, really. And just one of them that stood out to me as just like, oh, that's good. Even though you're flooded with them, is wedding cake freezes. This we know. Like I thought that was a funny joke. Yes. It came from either grandma or dad, but it was a funny joke. And there's a bunch of those just kind of peppered in. They don't all land. Sometimes it's the name of like the joke name of what's the name of the salon? Curl Up and Die.
Yes.
It's like the only reason a salon exists in this movie is because he said, it'd be a funny name for a salon. Curl Up and Die. They're like, whatever you say, Mr. Marshall, and then they write it. That's the whole. It's just a platter for jokes. That's my hidden gems.
Yeah, they even have, when they're going through the greatest hits of her running the 1, 2, and 3 beside that video cassette. And a cassette, children, is what we used to watch videos on that wasn't hooked up to the internet, is The Graduate, which has a very, very famous wedding scene. So yeah, he does like peppering that in. I think I'm going to change mine. He has a lot of cool things, like Johnny Unitas is sitting on the bench outside of the bakery, and when we're talking about sports, it's cool to see him there. But I think my hidden gem is the little old ladies that keep assaulting Richard Gere with newspapers.
Newspaper.
After he writes the Man-Eater column, he just gets whacked every time. And I think it's the same lady that is for some reason following him to Maryland, whacking him with a newspaper. And I appreciate the perseverance and the dedication to that joke. I like seeing things just get hit. I think I went with Monty Python, the cat being beat against the wall. So I am a simple man. Sarah, recast. Who are you recasting in Runaway Bride?
I'm sorry. I dislike this, and I could not decide, and I'm abstaining.
Boo.
No, you can't do that.
I'm terrible at it. I'm terrible at it. That's like the thing that gives me the most anxiety.
Well, we have to. What?
The first baseman is now Matt Damon.
Sure. There we go.
Okay. Oh, phew. She did it.
Yeah, the show would have come apart. We cannot have a push.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. That's
Feel better now.
I kind of want to put him in the barbershop quartet now. Can we put him in the barbershop quartet?
Well, if you're replacing him, you got to find 3 other guys too.
His other Ben Affleck.
Okay.
All right, we've got 2: Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes.
Jason Mewes, yeah.
Kevin Smith?
Why not?
Who's Jason?
Yeah. Kevin Smith.
He is Jay from Jay and Silent Bob.
Oh.
But Kevin Smith likes working with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, so just put the 4 of them. They're the barbershop quartet.
But we started with 2 good-looking guys.
Oh, I didn't know that was. I didn't know that was the qualifier. So now we've got to put like Kobe Bryant and Chris Hemsworth there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we can go there.
Right.
I find
That's
Kobe
believable.
Bryant to be a very strange addition there, but you can go with that.
I'm just picking people you find attractive. We've come up with a very strange barbershop quartet.
Yeah. Sure.
Dustin?
Yeah, Kobe Bryant in the Maryland barbershop quartet. Did not think we would be hitting this moment in the podcast. Rest in peace, Kobe.
Yes, it's a fitting tribute to his first and only movie. Actually, he has an Oscar for his short.
We went with, I'm going to abstain from this question too. Kobe Bryant in the barbershop quartet.
Suggestion. We can take him out and put somebody else in there.
No,
Nope,
we're not taking the Mamba out. The Black Mamba sits for no one.
That's right. 81 points in one game.
Yes.
My recast is instead of Yul Vazquez, who played Gil, let's get Hank Azaria in as him. I think that would be kind of a fun, wacky, like just kind of make him be a little more out there. I thought his performance was flat, and Hank Azaria could elevate him a little bit more.
So is he being Hank Azaria, or is he doing a voice here?
He's being because he can be so many different people, but like I think the first time I saw him act in the TV show was Brockmire, but as a movie he was the Along Came Polly guy that like takes Jennifer Aniston's character out, on his boat, and he's just he is a chameleon. So I think he could totally do who would he be? The bus driver, who Otto.
Otto.
He could totally do like an Otto the bus driver as Gil. I think that would work.
Okay, all right, I like it. I am recasting Reg Rogers. I know you said you liked him, Dustin. He's the entomologist X.
Yeah.
I've never said this in the history of this podcast, but I think we bring in Rob Schneider. I feel like the character's really weird. Like 1999 Rob Schneider. Rob Schneider now is, he's gone off an even deeper deep end. But yeah, I think I want Rob Schneider to kind of be his weird self in this movie. Have the bug guy be a little weird.
Is he believable as a scientist?
I mean, we cast Christmas Jones, Denise Richards, so...
When you said him, it made me think, what if we had Bobcat Goldthwait as that guy?
Yes. Perfect. Best shot, Sarah.
I was thinking probably the opening scene where Julia Roberts' character is running horseback, running away from a wedding, and with the music in the background, it just seemed like a good open.
Yes. Yes, that definitely set the scene for the rest of the movie. It told us everything we needed to know with one shot. Dustin?
It did, and it's also my choice. It was very clear. Beautiful shot, and it did set the scene. It was perfect. So, yeah, the same exact shot.
Yep. I'm going to make it 3 for 3. Julia does a good job within the shot of conveying emotion, which is hard to do when you're riding a horse towards the camera. So, good job, Julia. Good job, cameraman. We'll move on to our best scene.
I said the scene where Richard Gere had gotten a hold of, or Ike, had gotten a hold of the tapes of the other weddings and watches all the other weddings, and you can see the different characters she was in her different moments in time. And it really said a lot in a short period of time, which was really impactful, and it really helped show what they needed to say in a short amount of time, which was good.
Very good. Yeah, that it explains the issue without just speaking
Dialogue.
to you. Yeah, speaking to you like you're a child. It's like, she has no personality. Now we're going to show it through videotape. Dustin?
It's when she finishes her breaking and entering. I think the third time she does it, and she proposes to him on his balcony. I think that was as sweet as we wanted. We had several callbacks. I thought the use of like Ike's musical taste was unimportant in this movie, but I did like the music in that scene. And there's a great shot of the New York skyline, so it was my favorite scene.
Miles Davis is never unimportant, sir.
It's unimportant in this movie.
Aww.
Completely unimportant.
Oh, I did write down, it's like, this lady has a future as a burglar if this doesn't work out. That's a very sweet scene. She turns in the running shoes. It does make me say, oh. But for me, it's another scene. It's a very short cutaway scene, but it's after Ike proposes, and Maggie and Ike are just playing cards, and I wasn't familiar with the game. Is it Double Dutch or something like that?
It looked like Slapjack.
Yeah.
It looked like Slapjack, okay. Yeah. There's two games like that, but Slapjack is kind of the older one.
Well, they're playing some card game, and they're laughing and falling on each other and accusing each other of cheating. And it's just a sweet scene that really, it made the chemistry believable for me. And it was one of those moments where my very, very tiny heart grew 3 sizes.
Your heart grew 3 sizes?
Yes.
I knew you were going to say.
Yes. So I was happy. I was smiling during that scene. Sarah, your best wardrobe and makeup moment.
I don't know if you quite call this wardrobe or makeup, but I loved the moment where right before she was going to get married to Ike, and she's getting very nervous, and she does and eventually run, but while she's getting ready, one of her friends gives her bubble gum and puts her in front of the fan, and just the bubble gum is my best wardrobe makeup moment, because it was just using that small prop as not wardrobe or makeup, but just as a device to show the panic and the fear and trying to calm herself, and that's my moment.
All right, bubblegum and wardrobe. I like it as the makeup. Dustin, how about you?
Oh, I'm coming with the wardrobe and makeup moments. I've got 3 of them to list here, and I'll go fast.
Wow.
The absolute worst thing are Joan Cusack's butterfly clips. Absolute worst. The second thing that was almost as bad was Maggie's look, was the Julia Roberts look of the cowboy hat and the patterned long sleeve tee. No qualms about the denim. The denim of that time, I know it fits a little differently than it has since then, but I love that late 90s denim. But that particular look with the cowboy hat, absolutely dreadful. I had to bring those two up to get to my favorite one, which I think might be controversial, but it was played by Kathleen Marshall. Don't remember what her name in the movie is, but specifically it's like the shorteralls dress with the Oxford shirt underneath and a tie. That was during the wedding rehearsal at the church. Thought that I thought it looked just cute. Like it looked it like somebody said, "Let's try this," and it worked, honey. So there you go. Those are my moments.
That is not a look you see very much today.
No, it's not. It's a shorteralls dress.
Yep. I am going with a callback. I mentioned some of these callbacks earlier. Joan Cusack is wearing a Peaches baseball cap, and that's the name of the team from A League of Their Own. And Penny Marshall directed it. Joan's sister starred in it. So Ann Cusack, I like the Peaches baseball cap. It's like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah, Hail Peaches. Yeah. That's a cool callback. I didn't make that connection.
Yep. Sarah, change one thing.
I think that we should have had some more development of Bob and had him like working out shirtless.
Absolutely.
Yes.
He should be pushing the sleds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or, doing some weightlifting at his house or in his gym and some sweat movement. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's my one change.
You want Bob shirtless tossing the big tractor tire in the field.
Yes.
All right.
There we go.
All right, boys, let's hit the showers. Me first.
No.
This just got turned into a way different movie. Dustin, get us back to the PG era.
Sure thing. If I'm going to change one thing, I did mention it earlier. It would be to make Ike just a little slimier, a little more like New York. Get the New York off of him. Maybe have it to where it's not so easy how he ingratiates himself in the town. Yeah, they got him with the hair dye, but it just seems it had to move that fast. But I just make it a little harder for him, a little too easy for him. So that's what I would change.
All right. Well, that's what happens when you've got charisma and you're very handsome. Like it's all easy for you. Mine, I'm going to change a major part of the movie. I don't like the last run where she runs on Ike. I know it leads up to your favorite scene, but I think I would rather just Maggie grab his hand, realize she doesn't want this type of wedding, grab his hand, they run out together. We missed the FedEx joke, but then she goes and has her own wedding, her style, and they just run off together. It would also shorten the movie, which would make me happy.
That's a better movie. You did it. That's better.
Sarah's like, hard disagree. The shoes are an important part to the iconography of this movie.
This is true.
And the movie poster. Yeah.
Yes. Best quote, Sarah?
So I had a couple of different ones. My favorite funny one was when somebody was asking Ike how he got his story and if it was just a drunk in a bar, and he said, "Hey, don't knock drunks in bars. It means they're not out driving," which I thought that was funny and
that is
and nice quip. But then my favorite, more the sappy side, was when Maggie said, "I love Eggs Benedict. I hate every other kind. I hate big weddings with everybody staring. I'd like to get married on a weekday while everybody's at work. And when I ride off into the sunset, I want my own horse." And Ike says, "Should I be writing this down?" It's just, she finally figures it out. And she knows what she wants and she knows how she likes it. And there's something to be said about understanding who you are. And that was a good moment for her.
And it's a good line by Ike at the end. Should I be writing this down?
It sounds like something you'd ask me.
I would remember it. I knew your eggs. I looked at her as this movie was over. It's like, I know what eggs you like.
We both knew what each other's eggs were.
Yes. That's why we're compatible.
And they weren't the same.
No. Dustin, your best quote.
My best quote is it was written in the paper and it's not delivered by a primary actor. It's delivered by an extra or something. But the headline is Hardware Honey Goes Nuts and Bolts. That's really good.
You know someone got really excited to put that pun in. Like, that's what journalists live for.
And I loved it, and it was so good that they printed it, but they needed somebody to say it. So yeah, Hardware Honey Goes Nuts and Bolts is the best.
Yes, that's a great one. For me, it's Christopher Meloni when he's menacingly coming up to Ike at the wedding, and then he gives him the flower and says, "Maintain eye contact." And it's just delivered so straight, but it's such a funny moment.
And I like how then later was when he quit maintaining contact was when she ran away.
Yes. Yeah,
I love that.
He broke the spell. All right. Now it's time to rate Runaway Bride. So on a scale of 0 to 5 stars with half-star intervals, Sarah, what are you giving Runaway Bride?
I understand that Runaway Bride is not some Oscar-worthy film. I love a rom-com, though. So I can't give 5s to something that I know is not a great film.
You can. We've had it in the past.
Well, it bothers me. And I also, as you know, do not go to extremes in general. So, anyway, but I do enjoy it. And for that reason, I say 4.
4 stars. Very good. Dustin, what are you giving Runaway Bride?
This is exactly a 3-star movie. It is, we know that it's Garry Marshall's style. And I think it is so very much his style and so very much like set up the way that it is. Like, this is a great, like, C average baseline for romantic comedies. That's a better score than what our, Rotten Tomatoes friends are giving it, right? And it was enjoyable.
That's fair. I surprisingly found myself going 3.5. I enjoyed this movie a whole lot more than I thought I would given the premise, but it's mostly just a good, lighthearted, fun movie, and it's a delight to revisit the rom-com genre. For the podcast, we just don't hit it very often. We miss out, so I enjoy when we can get a guest that says, I want to do this, instead of science fiction or horror, or crime.
You're picking those two.
Yeah, you are not picking science fiction, horror, or crime.
No.
That I would be shocked. All right, so we've got a pretty good spread there. 3, 3.5, and 4 are working our way up. Dustin, do you want to help us pick a movie for next time?
Totally. Lay it on me.
Right, option 1, we are going with Body of Lies from 2008. A CIA agent on the ground in Jordan hunts down a powerful terrorist leader while being caught between the unclear intentions of his American supervisors and Jordan intelligence. Option 2, Unknown from 2011. When a man awakens from a coma only to discover that someone has taken on his identity, he teams up with a young woman to prove who he is. Option 3, The International from 2009. An Interpol agent attempts to expose a high-profile financial institution's role in an international arms-dealing ring.
That's a good list. Option 3, The International. What we go with.
All right, very good. This will be a new one for me. Can't wait to discuss it. Looking forward to it. Sarah, thank you for joining us. It's always good to have your opinion, and thank you for helping us out.
No problem.
And thank you, all the lords, ladies, and knights of the Retro Movie Roundtable. We invite you to reach out to us. We want to hear from you, so subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts. That not only helps us, but it helps other people that love movies find podcasts like ours. Give us a like on Facebook. Give us comments. We'll talk back to you. Follow us on Twitter at movie_retro or email us at retromovieroundtable@yahoo.com. So producing and providing this podcast is fun, but it's not free, so we invite you to support us at Patreon. You want to be the first supporter of us. Patreon.com/retromovieroundtable. Any contribution is much appreciated and will go towards making the show better for you, the listeners. As always, thank you for listening. Be good to each other and watch more movies. Dustin?
Your dad says he doesn't trust babysitters. Well, can't say I blame him. I had a babysitter myself once.